A Conduit, 1977.
Into the vertical line, generation Atari. Into the vertical line, generation.
September 1977. I am 7 years old. I just started CCD, after school Catholic Catechism class. In 2 years, I will take Holy Communion for the first time. I need to be consumed by the Holy Spirit. They give us 4 Gospels to read, a conduit to salvation. But instead, I am consumed with Star Wars. I see an advertisement in the Daily Breeze. It announces Star Wars characters appearing in person at the local Toys R Us in Torrance. I need to go. After seeing Star Wars that summer at South Bay General Cinema No. 1, I thirst for any and all information about the movie, but there is little to find except a few gossip stories I notice on the cover of People and National Enquirer at the checkout lane at Lucky Supermarket in Hermosa Beach while shopping with my mom. The Star Wars in-person event is on a Sunday morning. My mom grimaces as I ask her. We will miss church if we go. Ask your dad, she says. My twin brother and I approach my dad with the newspaper in hand. He's on his bed. He has a migraine. We never ask him for things like this. He lets my mom do them, so he can fix his motorcycles and clean his firearms. I know he doesn't believe in God, but I think he likes Star Wars. He told us it wasn't phony after we saw it. That is high praise from him. I'm worried that he will say that going to Toys R Us to see the Star Wars characters is panty waste. Anything that is not about shooting guns, fixing cars, racing motorcycles, or lighting firecrackers is panty waste to my dad. I struggle to understand what he means by that phrase, but I know it's not good. So we brave his migraine and his panty waste anyway. Star Wars is too important. He agrees to take us. We wake up really early that Sunday morning. Well, my dad wakes up. My brother and I never went to sleep the night before. Jeff and I sit at the kitchen table waiting for my dad to finish his morning routine. I wonder how the Star Wars guys will get there, I say. I don't know. They will probably arrive in a limousine, my mom says between sips of her coffee. I've never seen a limousine before. We slip out at 8:30 a.m. to get going. My dad has his 35mm camera with him, the Konica, we call it. He snaps a photo of us. I'm the guy on the left looking glum. My twin brother is on the right. Our 1976 Datsun 710 wagon is just behind us. When we get to Toys R Us, there is a thick line of people waiting to get inside. We drive by the store through a packed parking lot and find a free space about a quarter mile away in the adjacent lot for the Del Amo Mall. Then we hike back to the entrance. My dad is clutching the Konica. I wonder who will be there, I say. The ad showed Darth Vader, a stormtrooper, and Chewbacca, my brother replies. By the time we make it back from our parking space, people are being led into the Toys R Us. The crowd is packed deep inside the store at the back on a makeshift pathway down the board game aisle. We wait about an hour before anything happens. The time passes quickly. I feel like I've waited my whole life for this. Everyone is looking at a doorway to a stock room. Without anything better to do, I look in that direction too. It starts. Jeffrey Giraffe, the mascot for Toys R Us, comes out first. I stare at Jeffrey. This is the first time I've ever seen anyone in person. Jeffrey was not Star Wars, though. I'm nervous my dad will think this is panty waste, and by extension that I am panty waste. But my dad's eyes are hidden inside the Konica. He captures the arrival. After Jeffrey finishes his march, out comes a stormtrooper, a fascist soldier for the Empire. 35 years later, I will notice a weird detail in this photo my dad took. There's a guy on the top left leaning out of a doorway. I think maybe he is pretending to shoot at the stormtrooper with a hand laser. I think maybe my dad would have traded places with that guy. If he had a real laser blaster, he might have ambushed the space Nazis too. Payback for his brother, who was ambushed by a real German sniper in World War II. I think maybe it's the best photo my dad ever captured with the Konica. Chewbacca arrives next. Any notion that these characters were not real ends right here. The Chewbacca costume is amazing. I feel like Chewie is in our presence. Then finally, out comes Darth Vader. The crowd hushes. I feel a tingling sense of fear and excitement. The same tingle when I find a great hiding place playing Ditchum. This is the guy who magically choked his own people from across the room. This is the guy who killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. Others are impressed with Darth Vader too. The proof captured by the Konica. 35 years later, I will notice the rebel in the upper left-hand side of the photo again. I think maybe he is no longer ambushing the stormtroopers. I think maybe he cowers behind the door. I think maybe even he knows the limit of a hand laser against the Dark Lord of the Sith. Vader passes by us. Whoa, I hear whispered. I'm not sure I actually heard it, but I decide that I did hear it. The voice came from behind the Konica. Whoa. I feel a bright spot open in my head. My dad is having fun. He might not think this is panty waste after all. Whoa means that it is okay for me to like Star Wars. I feel a sense of relief. For once, my dad and I like the same thing at the same time. Star Wars is middle ground between the analog of his childhood, firecrackers and cherry bombs, BB guns and real ones, Terry and the Pirates and Popeye, Beau Geste, his abusive father, his desire to run away to join the French Foreign Legion, the Depression, the war, and the digital of ours, the $6 Million Man, TV games, Westworld, the Old Town Mall arcade, wiring batteries and motors and lights, a growing fascination with computers. It is a link between us. When the parade is complete, we are ushered down an aisle of posters, stickers, and notebooks that have the Star Wars name stamped on them. I want to see Star Wars again. I saw it 2 months ago. We can't afford to see a movie twice. I have $1 in quarters in my pocket, $1 earned working for my dad. I want to own something Star Wars, but something not panty waste. Something my dad will approve of. I scan the shelves on the way out, and my eye catches a Star Wars comic book. I've never read a comic book before. The Catholic priest in American Martyr says they are filled with sin, a conduit to damnation. But sitting before me is an opportunity, a portal to the world of Star Wars, a way to experience it once again. I pick it up. I hold the entire universe of Star Wars in my hands. I look at my dad. He nods in approval. It's not panty waste. I pay $1 in quarters and take it home. My dad pays the tax. When I should be reading the 4 Gospels, I instead consume the comic book every day for a year and then every other day for years to come. Months later, I need to perform the sacrament of confession before I get my first communion. I hear the priest behind the screen ask about my sins. I tell him about lying, not listening to my mom, and fighting with my brother. He says that's worth 3 Hail Marys and 1 Stations of the Cross. I forget to tell him about the Star Wars comic book. Over the next 30 years, my dad tries to get my brother and I to shoot guns with him. We do, but we're not really invested. We try to get our dad to use computers. He does, but he's not really interested. He discovers God as I discover disillusionment. But without fail, we watch the next 5 George Lucas Star Wars movies in a movie theater together. Between us, a conduit.
We were children of the Silicon Revolution, an X generation conscripted to fight the console and home computer wars. A product of an analog 70s childhood, we came of digital age in the 80s, believing we could affect the world 8 bits at a time. Armed with joysticks, full-stroke keyboards, Jolt Cola, and MTV haircuts, we proceeded into the vertical blank. There, we stayed up late at night, devising incantations from D&D rulebooks and beginner all-purpose symbolic instruction code. Video games were the match, and programming was the fuse, as the infinite possibilities of the digital world exploded into the internet age to come. We are Generation Atari.
Into the vertical blank.